What up, world? What up, Seven Cups family? As you read by the title, I want to be sharing with you today about the reasons why I don't smoke weed anymore. Now, this may or may not come as a surprise to you, but I considered myself a stoner for a decade. That's 10 years. I smoked weed for 10 years from the age of 14 to 24. And it was a big part of my life. It was a big part of my identity and who I am. I was a weed smoker. I know all there is to know about weed culture. Marijuana, ganja, loud pack. I'm not just somebody who's against smoking weed or against the marijuana plant or the hemp plant. I'm somebody who actually lived it for many years, was deep into it. I have a 420 tattoo, 420 tatted on my body. So I know what I'm talking about. It was a lifestyle for me. It was an everyday, multiple times a day thing. And that leads me into my first point. The first reason why I don't smoke no more is because, one, it's addicting. And I don't care what nobody says. I don't care that nobody's died from it. You know? It's addicting. I mean, let's just look at the definition of addicting. Okay, according to Merriam-Webster, addicting is a word. It is an adjective. And it means causing a compulsive, chronic, physiological or psychological need for a habit-forming substance, behavior, or activity. I mean, it has the word chronic right there in the definition. Smoking weed was something that I did every day. It's something that I did multiple times a day. It's something that I did before school, before work, before doing homework, before going to the gym, before going to sleep, before eating breakfast, before showering, before going to the dentist, whatever. I always did it. Why? Because it became a habit-forming substance. The second definition is producing a strong inclination to do, use, or indulge in something repeatedly. Wow. It was affecting my relationships. It was affecting my wallet. I was spending all my money on it. I mean, not all my money, but it's safe to say that it was a part of my monthly budget. And this was before I even started budgeting, but I was spending money on this every week. I was selling weed at one time. I was selling weed out of my parents' house. I would have people pull up in our alley or sometimes even pull up to my bedroom window, and I compromised the safety of my own family for this thing. You might be thinking I'm talking about alcohol or heroin or a harder drug, but I was doing all that with weed. If you can't wake up in the morning and go about your day without something, especially a substance, a drug, then it's addicting. Okay, the second reason why I don't smoke anymore is because it was affecting my memory. I think we've all heard or seen the "this is your brain on drugs," the whole act. For me, it was very real. I mean, not only was it affecting my short-term memory while I was high, I will tell you that I smoked weed starting from age 14 going to age 24. There are whole chunks of time, vacations, and events that I don't even remember. To this day, I'll be talking to my mom on the phone and she'll say, "Oh, you remember that time we went on vacation to this and this place and this happened and we ate at this restaurant?" And I just have no recollection at all of that entire vacation. I was talking to my mom recently about how I had a surgery on my toe to remove a wart and sometime when I was in college, and she said, "What, don't you remember when you had that surgery?" And I don't remember having an entire surgery on my own foot. So there was just a whole span of time when my brain was just like in a fog. Even if I wasn't high on that particular day, it stays in your system and it still affects you and it slows you down in a way. It carries on to the next day. And that whole time frame of my life was just cloudy, and there's big chunks that I don't remember, and I don't like that because I've said it before and I'll say it again. This life is short. Our days are numbered, and I want for my time to count. I don't want to waste any more time. So that's exactly why I stopped smoking. Okay, the third reason is something that feel free to disagree with me about, and actually leave a comment below if you've experienced this yourself. But I find that smoking weed or being high, it creates this false sense of contentment. And what I mean by that is, I think people smoke to, to relax, to feel good, to unwind, to forget about their problems, whatever it is. I think it all leads back to this idea of everything being okay, how it is. And you can call it a theory that I have, that smoking weed leads you to feeling like everything is okay as it is. When in reality, everything's not okay as it is. There's always an area to improve in. There's always improvement that you can make in your life. There's always something you can do to feed the relationships in your life so that they'll be stronger and they'll be healthier. There's always something more you can learn. There's always something more you can forgive someone for. There's always more love that you can share. There's always self-improvement to do, and everything's not okay how it is. And I think that smoking weed it kept me in a place where I would accept less than what God had for me, but just less than the quality of life that honestly God has for me. Comment below if you can relate to that. The fourth reason that I stopped smoking weed is the community. And when I say the community, I mean that there is a weed culture that believes that sharing drugs or smoking weed together or doing drugs together with friends creates a bond of some sort, even with strangers, and that it creates this spiritual bond and is this spiritual experience that brings people together. And I believed in that lie for a very long time, because you all feel like you're experiencing this high or this trip, you feel like you're experiencing it together, and that in some way you'll always have that connection. And I'm not saying that people I used to smoke with are not my friends anymore. I still have friends who smoke. I still have friends who I used to smoke with. It's legal now where I live in Chicago. I know a bunch of people in Chicago who still smoke, and even elsewhere where it's not even legal. I know plenty of people who smoke. I know that it's out there in the world. I know that it's accessible. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to be friends with people who smoke. I'm not saying that I'm not going to be found in environments where people are smoking, because you might. I mean, it's just I've accepted that it is something of this world. It's going to be in this world. But when I look at the percentage of people who I've smoked with in my entire life, which is probably hundreds, if not thousands, just all the people that I've ever smoked with, it's a very small percentage who I'm still close with, or who I still talk to, or who I would welcome over to my house for dinner, or who I would call on if, I need to talk about something, who are really there for me. It's a very, very small pool of those people. And you know why? Because that's all we had in common. All we had in common was smoking. But I have much deeper relationships now. So that's that. Okay, another reason that I stopped smoking, which we kind of touched on earlier, and this is a big, big part of it. I believe that smoking weed, it is flesh feeding. It feeds the flesh. I remember when I first smoked, or when I first was peer pressured into smoking, people would tell me all the time, what's the motto of that 5 gum commercial? People would say, like, it enhances your senses, or you can taste the senses.
Stimulate your senses.
It's advertised as making movies better, making sex better, making food better, making sleep better. It's like everything tastes better, everything looks better, music sounds better. All of these things are enhancing your senses. And when you're enhancing your senses, when you're feeding your senses, and when you're feeding your body, your physical body, you're feeding your flesh, that's the exact opposite of feeding your spirit. That's why it doesn't make sense to me when people say that smoking weed is a spiritual experience when all of the effects are physical, temporary, they go away. And anyone who has smoked weed before has probably had the munchies, yes, overeating. Let's go back to that addicting definition. Produces a strong inclination to do, use, or indulge in something repeatedly. Smoking weed, it makes you indulge in things. Like whatever you're doing, you go 100% in. Like if you're eating, you're gonna eat the whole bag of chips and whatever else is in the cabinet. And especially on the come down of like when you're high, but then it's going away and you're going from up here to down here, and it's like this crash. I can tell you that the last time I watched pornography, which was a year ago, if not longer, probably about a year ago, the last time that I watched it was when I was coming down from being high, one of the last times that I smoked. And that was like headed towards like this is the last straw, because I know that I don't want to watch this thing. I don't want to watch this thing. I don't want this dirty, filthy thing in my brain. But at the moment when I was high and like alone in my room, I wanted to feel good. Like I wanted to feed my flesh. I wanted to please my flesh. Another reason why I decided to stop smoking is because I realized my influence on people around me. And I don't just mean like, oh, I'm on social media, I'm on YouTube, I'm an influencer. No, I mean like we all have an influence to our social circles or whatever circles that we're in, our sphere of influence. We all have a sphere of influence. We all have people who are seeing what we do and watching the way that we move, whether we like it or not, whether we know it or not. People are always watching us. And so I recognized that I was having influence on people. Like I would encourage other people to smoke. I would smoke with people for their first time. And I've seen it happen multiple times in my life where I smoked with somebody and then they start smoking on their own and then they start getting addicted, and then next thing you know, they are high all the time. They're at home with no job, but they're smoking every day. Now they're getting into other harder drugs. Like, and it's like, yo, I was there with you when you first smoked. Had I not allowed that to happen, or had I not been a part of that, you'd be better off, you know what I'm saying? So, I can't have that on my conscience. When I stand before God, I'm not gonna have the sin of others on me. I don't want him to say that I encouraged other people to stumble, so I'm done with it. That alone is almost worth it to stop for me. And the final reason, honestly the biggest reason why I stopped smoking, and this reason, it could have just been it. It could have been the number one and only reason. Is actually because, okay, so the day I realized maybe smoking weed is a problem is, I kid you not, is the day I realized I cannot read my Bible at night. I was not able to read my Bible at night. I was not able to read, period, when I was high. At that point I had to choose. Am I going to read my Bible and have peace before I go to sleep, or am I going to try to get peace by smoking weed before I go to sleep? I literally had to choose between my Bible and weed. So I said, yo, it's not even that serious. So that was the day that I really realized that I can't. It's a mind-altering substance. I don't care how it compares in strength or potency or danger compared to cocaine and other Schedule 1 drugs. I don't care about all that because it's still mind-altering. I mean, that's the reason why people smoke, isn't it? It's all to your mind. And I used to be okay with that. I used to like it, actually. But now, I hate it. I don't like my mind being altered. I'm very protective over my spirit now. I don't want to just be led in any which direction. The Bible says multiple times, be alert and be sober-minded. The end of times is near, so be alert and of sober mind so that you could pray. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. So yeah, those are the reasons why I don't smoke weed anymore, because it's honestly not worth it to me. It doesn't add anything to my life. In fact, it just takes away because I can't remember anything. And when I look back on my life, I want to have good memories. I want to be present. And that's just what Jesus does. Made me into a new creation, created in me a pure heart. That's just the power of Jesus right there. But yeah, I mean, I'm not kicking this to you just trying to bash weed or trying to bash anyone who still smokes, because I'm a person who actually has been through it for 10 years. Like, do you know what a tincture is? Exactly. I know what it is. I was deep into it. I was deep into the culture. I've been to Amsterdam. Like, I barely remember it. No, but for real, thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you can relate to anything that I've said or if you learned anything. But I just wanted to give you guys a life update in case anyone was wondering, like, oh, does she just not smoke weed because it's against the rules of the church? Like, no, the Bible actually doesn't mention marijuana and smoking it, but I just don't need it. Yeah, let me know if you guys want to know anything more, if you have any questions. If you also want to low-key stop smoking even though you've been a smoker for like majority of your life, leave me a comment. Send me a DM on Instagram. My Instagram is @7femininecups. Reach out to me, you guys. I love you, and I want you to know that you are worth a lifetime.